Well, it's the wet season, and the Army Corps recently started discharging water from Lake Okeechobee, and that means toxic algae blooms are a big concern along our waterways. So joining me now from D.C. is Congressman Brian Mast. Now, sir, you're working to build a reservoir there to try to cut down on these discharges. Tell us what that will do and where this project stands.
That's exactly right. The ultimate goal is to eliminate these toxic discharges of water that destroy the way of life in the Treasure Coast of Florida. There was a Senate Bill 10 in the state of Florida. That was the state authorization for this southern storage reservoir south of Lake Okeechobee. We're the federal end of it. And so what we were doing here today is getting that federal authorization to be the partner on that southern storage reservoir. Probably the most important piece of legislation we could be doing for the community right now.
And another big piece of this is the water that is discharged to the rivers. You want that to be filtered in some way. Tell me, how is it possible to filter clean that much water?
Well, number one, we want the water to not come our way at all. That's what we want. So that's where there's so many pieces of the projects in restoring the Everglades and fixing the dike around Lake Okeechobee and making sure that water goes other places where it was designed to go instead of to the east coast of Florida where it's coming our way. One of the things, however, we have done, because they are constantly sending these toxic algal blooms into the Treasure Coast, like what they're doing as we speak, was we worked with the Corps of Engineers, asked them what they need in order to go out there and combat these algal blooms. What they told us is we need a 5-year authorization, $3 million a year, to go out there and develop the technology to clean up those algal blooms. Why? You know, they can clean up a fish tank. That's something that they can do. They can't clean it to the tune of millions of gallons a minute, which is what's being released as we speak.
And also right now, these discharge rules that we do have in place are a decade old, so they need some fine tuning as well.
You're absolutely right. So one of the other amendments that we put into this bill, known as the Water Resources and Development Act, we put in there a holder to say that they will begin the Lake Okeechobee regulation schedule. They will redo the Lake Okeechobee regulation schedule beginning in 2019. That is that schedule that says at what level can they keep the depth of Lake Okeechobee. So especially in times like this where we've had a lot of rain, or if there's a hurricane approaching Florida, they know that they have the ability, the Corps of Engineers has the ability to keep the lake at a much higher level instead of sending that water out the east and west coast of Florida.
And Congressman, you want all of these worked into this massive water bill that's of course a nationwide bill. Tell me, what's next for this project? What should we be keeping an eye out for?
So I have been working on all of these and really, 10 plus amendments into this bill since the moment that I got into Congress. This is what I asked to do. This has been the entire focus of what we've been working on. What's next for this is getting the appropriations to make sure that those projects that we got authorized now have the dollars behind them to actually bring them to completion.
And we're talking millions of dollars here.
We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. The partnership between the state and federal government is $700 to $800 million on each side of it in order to bring that southern storage reservoir to completion.
All right, the state has chipped in its half of the money. Now it's up to the feds. Congressman Brian Mast, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.